Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. I don't know how long I'll be back for, but I have a lot of news to get to today, and it is Monday, July 29th, 2013. I'm Darko, and I no longer have a website right now, but I'm going to try to work on the next one. Alright, I'm going to cover the war on terror, liberty, sovereignty like usual, and we have U.S. and Russia simultaneously announced intent to arm opposing sides in Syria. Again, this, like a lot of times, this shouldn't be any big surprise. I do love the photo of their faces, though, but basically it's just saying that they're both going to let weapons flow in the hands of the Syrian rebels, basically by the lifting congressional hurdles. It says all agreements between Russia and Syria in the area of armed deliveries are in place. The contracts continue and are in force. So I wanted to include a video here, but I'm so scared to include any kind of video content into my videos because I got 2 strikes apparently. I don't really know how to find out how many strikes I have, but I'm one step away from losing my channel here, so I'm just going to try to be kind of conservative right now. This video, basically of this Mohammed Dar Jamo, a political analyst and commentator who often appeared on many Arab TV stations to defend Syria's sovereignty, was assassinated in Lebanon in the hands of gunmen who broke into his home in the Lebanese southern city where his wife is from. He was shot nearly 30 times. You can see this. Type this in, excerpt from last interview of pro-Syrian government political commentary. Assassinated Lebanon. He talks about some high-tech kinetic weapons that we were speaking about. Basically, the interviewer, basically the journalist, was trying to get him to say where these weapons were coming from, but he wouldn't say. But he said that these weapons do not exist anywhere else, and they were basically crafted specifically for Syria. And he kept saying that if Israel crossed the line, and what they're doing with destabilizing the region, that they would basically start scorching the region and set it on fire, basically. But from the limited amount of information I know about kinetic weapons, I haven't heard too much about it until recently. It's kind of an alternative to nuclear weapons because it's not as messy. Basically, telephone poles made of tungsten, which is basically kind of what they fill those gold bars with, moving at Mach speed, so you can just imagine the force of that. U.S. uses Syrian rebel supply lines as it prepares to send arms. The U.S. has been quietly testing the Syrian terrorists. I don't even know why I call them Syrian terrorists or foreign jihadist terrorist mercenaries. Basically, testing the ability to deliver food rations, medical kits, and cash to the terrorists. It says as Washington prepares to send arms to them. Militants in Syria shoot 51 civilians in head. So again, these are the same people that the Washington is arming. So these armed militants or terrorists in Syria executed around 51 civilians in Khan al-Sala, a strategic town close to the northern city of Aleppo. Reports said on Friday that the civilians were killed on Monday after the town fell to the militants. The victims were all shot in the head. If you see my video, Enemies at the Gates of Syria, it mentions one of Assad's speeches, where he says that the terrorists keep attacking their grain and wheat or mills, basically, all of their silos with their food in the dead of winter. Assad's forces killed 12 rebels taking flour from mill, says the activists. So who are the activists, right? At least 12 rebel fighters were killed on Monday as they were taking flour from a mill on the eastern outskirts of the capital, Damascus. Opposition activists. In other words, like, again, you look at my video, the Enemies Against Syria, you can define that as the terrorists themselves, saying that face the truth about President Bashar al-Assad. He's not going anywhere. Says, this is from the Telegraph. Regime change in Syria. Remember, regime change is according to a Brookings Institute policy made up by guys wearing suits and ties and basically are working for the West. So, step by step. And Syria looks very unlikely despite the lengthy civil war. Again, this is not civil war. These are foreigners, foreign mercenaries. They're not even really Muslims. Being paid by Western democratic nations to take down a sovereign nation. And they're promising these jihadists, or these mercenaries, basically a Sunni Islamic state with Sharia law. But they're not going to get it. What they're going to get is Libya and Afghanistan and Iraq. So they say it's bad news for the region and for the West. No, it's actually good news for the region, and it's bad for the West. War on Syria will draw in Russia and trigger World War III, says analyst. Go in there and check this out, says a former U.S. Marine, Ken O'Keefe, told Press TV on Saturday that Russia would not remain indifferent to a potential military attack against Syria. Says that intervention in Syria would instigate a third world war by inevitably getting Russia involved in the conflict. This was super heated between this O'Keefe and this Lee Kaplan. I guess he's a Zionist Jew, and he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. But the most interesting thing I saw, besides this guy making an ass out of himself and backing a policy that's basically failing, is that he kept mentioning how the West needs to support the Kurdish activists, or basically help the Kurds create an autonomous Kurdish state. I've actually made a video about that about a year ago, saying that Zionists will back basically a Kurdish proxy state. So in other words, for human rights, we'll go and we'll help you, while they're the biggest human rights violator in the world. So, but this is create a proxy state, and that is, again, when they don't get what they want, they just move on to another objective. So we heard about possible ground troops by the United States. They're mulling them with General Dempsey saying that, no-fly zones, of course. But also you see news coming out of Britain basically setting the precedence for a chemical attack, saying that the British government supplied the Syrian government with the chemical weapons. Also, the West is also supplying their mercenary terrorists with these chemical hoods for a chemical attack. So be prepared for another chemical attack by the terrorists. Of course, to be blamed on the Assad government. Syrian Kurds expel militants from key villages. So we have here Syrian Kurds made rapid advances in the north Tuesday, expelling militants from a string of villages. A mistrust between Kurds and Arabs grows. At another point I was going to make, I think at the point that I made in that video about the Zionists want a Kurdish proxy state, is that it's kind of another stick at Russia. So Syrian army, Palestinian volunteers advancing towards camp near Damascus is a good video. If you type that in, you can find it's a good video to watch. So it says some of the militants have adopted a scorched earth policy and burn their houses as they retreat to slow down the advancing military units fighting alongside the Palestinian volunteers. So the Syrian army and Palestinian volunteers have been forcing out foreign-backed militants from a refugee camp outside capital of Damascus. An official of the Popular Front for Liberation of Palestine, which is battling for the camp, says the camp had been occupied by thieves. He says, as you know, the armed groups entered Yarmouk 8 months ago and displaced over 200,000 people as part of a plan to enter the capital of Syria. It turned out that they were thieves and they looted the camp. We tried to get them out using peaceful means, and now we have no other means but to forcefully liberate our camp, and we won't retreat. Israel and U.S. dictated the European Union's move on Hezbollah, says Nasrallah. So it goes on here and it says that they've condemned the European Union's decision to declare the group's armed wing a terrorist organization. He says, I don't feel that at all this decision is a sovereign European decision. It was dictated to the Europeans, he said, noting that the Israelis are behind this decision, as they have said so themselves. The U.S. is with them 100%. North Korea and Syria hold cordial talks. According to the report, Kim exchanged with the guests views on the issue of boosting the bilateral relations and other issues of mutual concern, including the regional situation. I think there was a quote, I was trying to find it, where the leader of North Korea was basically saying that Syria and Assad, he said that the reason they haven't gone down is because of their people and their leadership. U.S. supports Salafism to sow discord among Muslims, says Iran MP. He says that the U.S. and its allies spread extremist thoughts and support Salafism to sow discord among Muslims, stressing the importance of strengthening unity and solidarity to counter conspiracies. Israel provokes internal conflicts to destabilize Mideast, says an analyst. Says Israel's strategic doctrine is to destabilize the Middle East by provoking internal conflicts in regional countries in an attempt to ensure its own survival, and that's how it ensures its own survival, is through chaos. Interview with Kevin Barrett described Israel as the biggest destabilization factor in the Middle East. In order to survive, it must destroy all the sovereign states around it by splitting them up into ethnic and sectarian enclaves, or they call them balkanization, which Zbigniew Brzezinski talks about a lot. This is why Israel has created Al-Qaeda, or at least steered Al-Qaeda, greatly encouraged the formation of these extremist Takfiri militant groups, and used them to destroy sovereign states throughout the Middle East. Then Egypt's Brotherhood, Muslim Brotherhood, says that Zionists destabilize Arab countries. This is from a Jewish website, and it says here Muslim Brotherhood's leader or body blames General al-Sisi of Egypt for committing massacres, the likes of which were only committed by bitter Zionist enemies, insists Zionist fingers maneuver countries of Arab Spring so as to fulfill vision of Great Israel. So you can see what's happening. This is what I was covering before I went on an unexpected, unplanned hiatus, which is where we talked about a greater Israeli expansion. And you have Sheikh Hussein talking about that, about how certain things have to happen to fulfill the prophecies and stuff like that for Israel to overtake the U.S. as the leader of the world. White House on Egypt massacre, no comment. So Congress expresses concern while Obama desperately tries to avoid the issue. So it's become a black hole, Egypt has, for the Obama regime. It says here $1.5 billion in military aid goes there annually, but what happens there is never officially recognized and by design. So yeah, basically the Egyptian police massacred 100 civilian protesters on the streets of Cairo, wounding thousands of others. Saudi King Abdullah pays $1 billion to help the Egyptian army remove Morsi from July 29th. Saudi political activists revealed that the al-Saud dynasty has extended a $1 billion aid to the Egyptian defense minister to topple former President Morsi. Said the Saudi government is very much concerned that al-Sisi has failed to establish a new setting in Egypt successfully, as basically Morsi protesters were out in full force. The IMF abandons plan to provide $4.8 billion loan to Egypt. We've heard about that before, so they do not plan to restart negotiations about the $4.8 billion loan to Egypt until the country's military-backed transitional government gains recognition from the global community. Like I said before, it's not a sovereign military. That's basically a foreign military occupying Egypt, there to oppress and bring down any kind of real change from the people. Saudi Arabia's King Abdullah clinically dead. We've covered this before, May 27th of this year. So, and he hasn't been seen in public, so who knows who's running that place. But CIA's favorite Saudi prince is laying the groundwork for post-Assad Syria. King Abdullah names Prince Bandar Director General of Saudi Intelligence. It says here on top of his post as Secretary General of the National Security Council. So CIA favorite now is at the head of the intelligence. And I did an interview with a radio show this weekend on Saturday, and I mentioned about Saudi Arabia, about how we should keep an eye on them, whether it's by design or not. There could be some destabilization going on there as well. Saudi prince defects from royal family, says a report. The Saudi prince Khalid bin Farhan al-Saud has announced his defection from the royal family, referring to his suffering under the reign of al-Saud, and called on other princes to break their silence. The regime in Saudi Arabia does not stand by God's rule or even the country's established rules, and its policies, decisions, and actions are totally based on the personal will of its leaders. Then I've heard this before about how there's actually Jews that are running that place. It says Jews founded the Saudi royal family as a secret agent to destroy Turkish rule and eventually create Israel. In the following report, it says here Wayne Matson, I'm not sure how credible he is if he's disinfo, but it says here is that the young Turks who conquered Turkey were crypto-Jews, as were the House of Saud ruling Saudi Arabia, both supporters of a Zionist state in Palestine, and the Sauds originated Wahhabism, which was created to divide Muslims. Something else I found, 2002 Iraqi intelligence report, Wahhabis are of Jewish origin, House of Saud is Jewish. It says here, King al-Saud at the time in 1969 declared in the Washington Post, stating that we, the Saudi family, are cousins of the Jews. We entirely disagree with any Arab or Muslim authority which shows any antagonism to the Jews. So if there is extreme regime change there, anti-Israel, that's why you have stuff like this. Saudi Arabia targeting Iran and Israel with ballistic missiles. That's from July 10th of this year. Saudi forces burn cars, houses during operation to arrest rights activists. Kuwait election says that here Shia candidates suffer at the polls. They're a minority, and it says here they've lost more than half of their seats in the second parliamentary election in less than. It says here liberal and tribal groups have emerged the main winners. I'm not sure what that actually implies, what they are. Qatar learns money buys cooperation only within its borders. Billions of dollars into bankrolling revolutions in Libya, Syria, and Egypt. And it says here the Qataris are finding that money can't deliver an airtight foreign policy. So it's not just Qatar. This is the UAE. This is the Zionists. This is the Zionist-occupied government in the United States, UK, Europe, your EU. So this isn't just Qatar. They're providing a lot of the cash, but a lot of the intelligence and stuff is coming from the West. It also verifies that they're losing. They're not getting what they want. I'm just going to stop here. I'm going to have 2 videos today on basically the Middle East and other places. So please join me in part 2. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.